agents for more information on this special coverage. Because insurance companies will be paying out hundreds of millions of dollars and the demand for earthquake insurance is growing, does this mean the cost will go up?
Use this as an opportunity to do that. That's not so. What happens is that the individual coverages, the earthquake coverage itself, is generally priced based on experience. In years when there's no earthquake, obviously, it makes money for insurance companies. In years when there's claims, we lose tremendous amounts of money. But we take the catastrophes into consideration when we price it. And if we were to go ahead now and base our rates based on what we're going to pay out on the earthquake, we couldn't sell insurance to anybody because nobody could afford it.
Generally, what's the rule of thumb? How many dollars per thousand?
That's going to vary depending on where you live in the state. If you're in an area that's in a high concentration of earthquakes, depending on whether you live in a frame house, which generally withstands quakes better, or live in a brick house. But in a general rule, it'll run anywhere from $1.50 all the way up to $12 per thousand.
Newest people to be made homeless by the killer quake are these residents of an Oakland housing project near the collapsed Nimitz Freeway. Oakland police ordered them out when new cracks were found in a previously undamaged section of freeway.
I don't have nowhere to go.
Recovery workers were pulled away from this section of Highway 880 and sent to other areas where the search for victims continues. The euphoria that accompanied yesterday's rescue has faded to grim realism.
The general consensus from the workers is that it's not as intense as it was yesterday. And I hope there's not another Buck Helms under there waiting his turn.
The man who first spotted Buck Helm in the concrete darkness told reporters how it happened.
The gentleman waved to me, and that was the first first movement that I saw. It surprised me. I continued watching. A few minutes later, it appeared he tried to turn his head toward the light. At that point, I was confident he was alive, and that's when I tried to call in the rescue.
4 hours later, through this small hole, Buck Helm saw the light of day for the first time in 4 days. He's still in critical condition, still in intensive care, but his doctors are optimistic. But there is little optimism here. Workers are punching holes in the concrete and using fiber optic tubes attached to TV cameras to search for signs of life and death. But they have so far found only death. 4 additional victims have been pulled from the rubble since Buck Helm was rescued, bringing the death toll to 38. In Oakland, Mark Brown, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
It was announced today that the World Series has been postponed another 3 days. It will definitely get underway again on Friday at Candlestick Park. We'll have more on that from Todd Donahoe in just a few minutes. As demolition continued in the earthquake-ravaged Marina District, there were staggering new figures today. Overall damage is now estimated at $7.1 billion. That would make this the most expensive natural disaster in U.S. history. The first of 7 federal disaster assistance centers open in San Francisco today, as Senator Alan Cranston predicted that $3.5 billion in federal aid will be approved this week. Special church services were held today to mourn for the dead, with the confirmed death toll at 59 and still rising. In Santa Cruz, dozens of historic buildings will have to be torn down, some of them a century old. It was these unreinforced buildings that helped give Santa Cruz its charm and much of its commercial revenue. Another landmark, the San Francisco Ferry Building, had its earthquake-damaged flagpole removed today, the hard way. A helicopter cable apparently got hung up in a radio antenna, and the flagpole plummeted to the ground. Nobody was hurt, and the flagpole suffered no additional damage. Tomorrow, gridlock is predicted as tens of thousands of commuters try to get to work without the Bay Bridge. Ferries and small boats will be pressed into service as BART cars and surrounding bridges try to absorb a heavy overload.
Comparison to the massive trembler experts say we can expect from the San Andreas Fault someday. Powerful forces are at work along that fault line, a virtual time bomb ready to explode. If a major earthquake should hit Los Angeles during rush hour traffic, government officials predict a grim picture. They say as many as 12,000 people could be killed, as many as 55,000 injured. On a quiet morning in February of 1971, an earthquake registering 6.6 on the Richter scale struck the San Fernando Valley with powerful force, killing 165 people. Yet a magnitude 8 earthquake would eclipse that power many times over, releasing almost 1,000 times more energy than the Sylmar quake. But despite a predicted earthquake of that magnitude, Geologist Rachel Gulliver tells us only a few sections of the valley would be especially vulnerable.
In general, the San Fernando Valley will only receive a moderate level of damage, but some areas will receive more than others. For instance, areas that have some liquefaction susceptibility.
An earthquake can trigger liquefaction when violent shaking moves high groundwater through unstable sandy soil, greatly intensifying ground motion on the surface.
Areas of liquefaction scattered in several parts of the valley. One of the largest areas of liquefaction is roughly within a mile of the Los Angeles River, and in addition, a fairly large area encompassing portions of Reseda, Canoga Park, Woodland Hills, and some adjacent communities.
Tomorrow we'll explore earthquake danger zones in two areas, the Inland Empire and Orange County. And if you'd like to know more about earthquake danger zones in your community, the California Division of Mines and Geology has printed a special publication. It's Special Publication 60, and it focuses on the impact of an 8.3 earthquake striking the Southland. It's available for a small fee by contacting the California Department of Conservation, Division of Mines and Geology, and it is the worst-case scenario, so it prepares you for the very worst.
8.3, it's so scary, but it's so possible.
It is absolutely possible, and we should think about it and plan for it.
Anytime.